Yerno de La Rioja, or something like that. So this is some of our users in Spain, one of the states in Spain. We aren't talking too much about the use of raster data throughout the day, so this is a good example of somebody using FME to process raster data. And maybe we wouldn't go to a site and say people should process raw satellite imagery with FME, but these guys have been long-term users of FME, and so they were experimenting in this area. They were getting rapid eye multispectral images, good Canadian technology from our friends at MDA, I understand, micro satellites. And the main motivation, I understand, for this work was at the time, the rapid eye constellation was relatively new, and the image processing tool that they were using hadn't been upgraded to have some of the formulation that they needed to get some of the data out of the imagery that they were looking for. And what they wanted to do is to process the data so they could get some agricultural, do some agricultural analysis on that. A bunch of things I had not really heard of before. Normalized difference vegetation index they wanted to get out, transformed chlorophyll absorption, reflectance index, and optimized soil adjusted vegetation index they wanted to calculate from this satellite imagery. So they had to do quite a lot of pre-processing and formulation on the data. They had to know exactly where these satellites were when they actually did to do this processing. So they needed to calculate the distance from the sun and the incoming solar radiation. So when she runs the workspace, inputs all these different values, including the time and day that the satellite overpassed, the centroid of or the location of the satellite at the time it overpassed, to calculate the solar azimuth angle and the distance between the sun and the Earth. So they used the FME transformer, the expression evaluator, to do some fairly detailed sort of trig work on these inputs that they had entered to calculate these values. And then these were used, again, within the raster expression evaluator that was then used to calculate for each pixel in the image these three different indices that they wanted to get out, these vegetation indexes, to be used for the data analysis that they were doing. So that's the NDVI, Takari, and OSAVI values. And then each of those images, the indexes were put out to a separate TIFF image that they could then use for their processing. So they are grayscale images put out that they can then run through, I assume, some other image processing tool to do the vegetative analysis. So a kind of interesting use of FME using those raster expression evaluators to do processing on each pixel within the image base to do some calculations and come up with a different index from the raw satellite imagery. These folks at the state of Rioja are also, they are very strong FME users, and so they've also been playing around with our PDF writer, which isn't probably the strongest of our writers in FME, but they've produced some fairly complex workflows to produce PDF maps, and my understanding is that these PDF maps are entirely created from within FME, and so they have all the styling and the title blocks within these PDF files. So what they're doing is creating the PDF maps from their data warehouse. I think there's quite a lot of work to get this going, but the great thing is that it's a repeatable process. So as they update their data warehouse, all they have to do is press the button and say, I want a map sheet for this area, and get that data out again and produce a new map. So I think that's really interesting that they've gone to the effort of using our PDF writer to get to that level of sophistication for their cartographic output.